dance floor, I got all I need. No, I ain't got cash, but I got you, baby. Baby, I don't need dollar bills to have fun tonight, no. Baby, I don't need dollar bills to have fun tonight. I don't need no money, as long as I can feel the beat. I don't need no money, as long as I keep dancing, yeah. I love cheap thrills, I love cheap thrills, I love cheap thrills, I love. Baby, I don't need dollar bills to have fun tonight. Baby, I don't need dollar bills to have fun tonight, no. I don't need no money, as long as I can feel the beat, yeah. I don't need no money, as long as I keep dancing. I love cheap thrills, I love cheap thrills.
Beautiful one, hating, crazy. Thinking about the way I was. Did the heartbreak change me? Maybe. But look at where I ended up. I'm all good already, so moved on. It's scary, I'm not where you left me at all. So, if you don't wanna see me, then still with somebody. If you wanna believe that anything could stop me, don't show up, don't come out. Don't start caring about me now. Walk away, you know how. Don't start caring about me now. Aren't you the guy who tried to hurt me with the word goodbye? Though it took some time to survive you, I'm better on the other side. I'm all good already, so moved on. It's scary, I'm not where you left me at all. So, if you don't wanna see me, then still with somebody. If you wanna believe that anything could stop me, don't show up, don't come out. Don't start caring, don't start caring about me now. Don't show up, don't come out. Oh, you know how. Don't start caring now. If you don't wanna see me, then still with somebody. If you wanna believe that anything could stop me.
A long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again. When I see you again.
Baru Sky High Waterproof Mascara dari Maybelline New York. Maskara viral sold out di Amerika.
I'm at a payphone trying to call home. All of my change I spent on you. Where have the times gone, baby? It's all wrong. Where are the plans we made for two? Yeah, I know it's it's hard to remember the people we used to be. It's even harder to picture that you're not here next to me. You say it's too late to make it, but is it too late to try? And in our time that you wasted, all of our bridges burned down. I wasted my nights, you turned out the lights. Now I'm paralyzed, still stuck in that time when we called it love. But even the sun sets in paradise. I'm at a payphone trying to call home. All of my change I spent on you. Where have
Recording in progress.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, good morning everyone. How's your life,
Recording in
guys?
progress.
I hope you all are good wherever you are. Thanksgiving to all of you have present today in this webinar. Okay, I am Dina Yumna Zakia, or you can call me Yumna as the mistress of ceremony today. Today, I would like to give a courteous greeting and say thank you for the moderator, also for the speakers. We have the one and only Miss Fatma Oryza, or we can call her Miss Oryza in short, as our moderator. And our speakers today are Mr. Ahmad Firman Santriyo, Miss Zalfa F. Jatmiko, and Mr. David Friedrich. Give an applause for our moderator and our speaker this morning. In this occasion, we will have discussion about innovation and international language. Don't worry, we have great speaker to discuss about the topics above together. Well, it seems like we have been waiting this event to come for ages, right? So, welcome to international webinar entitled Increasing Creativity and Innovation in Language for Competing in the Modern Era. We have already the mervelism, so that give the best attention that you have. Please write in your note, not in your dream. It means you leave us to sleep. To begin today's agenda, let's open this agenda by reciting Al-Fatihah together. Ala hadiniyatis salihah Al-Fatihah. Amin, amin, ya Rabbal Alamin. For the next, let's come to the opening speech by the Chief of Dignitaries UPBA and the leader of UPBA 2022. The first speech will be delivered by the Chief of Dignitaries UPBA 2022. Dear Miss Wilda Sadila, time is yours.
Okay, thank you for the time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dear all excellencies, Mr. Bakhtiari Fai as the supervisor of UPBA, Miss Amelia Fernanda as the leader of UPBA 2022, Miss Siti Makfiratur Rahma as the chief of International Webinar UPBA 2022, Honorable all of my committees of International Webinar UPBA 2022 who have been organizing this event, well, and all speakers also the moderator. First of all, let's pray and thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who has been giving us mercies and blessings so we can attend and gather in this event with the good condition and happy situation. Secondly, may salawat and salam always be given to our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has guided us from the darkness into the lightness. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here at this memorable virtual encounter. It is such an honor for me to speak on behalf of the organizer. Let me begin by giving you a warm welcome to the international webinar UPBA 2022 with the theme Increasing Creativity and Innovation in Language for Competing in the Modern Era. This international webinar is the annual event that is held by UPBA UINSA as the part event of this Natalis UPBA. And unfortunately, this event still conducted virtually this year. Therefore, we are from the committee. We apologize if there are many mistakes and weaknesses during this event. Ladies and gentlemen, in this occasion, I just want to say welcome and thank you very much for all of participants who attending this event. I hope all of participants can follow and enjoy this event until the end of the agenda. Unforgettable, I would like to say thank you very much for all speakers and the moderator of today's webinar for the willingness and participating in our webinar International 2022. That's all my speech as the leader of organizing committee of this Natalis UPBA 2022. I do apologize if there is mistakes. Enjoy the event and thank you for your attention. The last I say, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I give the time back to MC.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much. For the next speech will be delivered by the leader of UPBA 2022, dear Miss Amelia Fernanda. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Your Excellency, Mr. Bastiari Fai as the supervisor of UPBA, Ms. Wilda Sabila as the leader of organizing committee this Natalis UPBA 2022, Ms. Siti Makfiratur Rohma as the chief of international webinar UPBA 2022, Honorable all of my committees of virtual international webinar UPBA 2022 who have been organizing this event, and all of the speakers. Let's say and thank unto our God Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for all His mercies. May salawat always be given to our best Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for his great guidance. Before I deliver my welcoming speech here, I'd like to say thank you very much for my beautiful mistress of ceremony, Miss Gina Yumna, who has given me this great opportunity. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much to all participants that have joined this event. Thanks for the great moderator, Miss Fatma Oryza. Thanks for all the great and well-experienced speakers, Mr. Ahmad Firman Santriyo as the Regional Coordinator Polyglot Indonesia Chapter Surabaya, Mr. David Friedrich as a native English teacher, and also Miss Zalfa Jatmiko as the Djarum Scholarship and IISMA 2021 awardee. It's such an honor for me myself and UPBA to establish this cooperation and have you all as our speakers in our annual event. For your information, that this international webinar is the final event of 20 this Natalis UPBA. So we dedicated this event the best as possible that hope to add some new insights of the participants by inviting some great speakers, local and native. As the representative of the committee, I do apologize for all my mistakes or perhaps some miscommunication during this event runs. All the critics and suggestions are free to share in the end of this event to fix all the mistakes and create our event ahead be better. That's all my speech as the chief of UPBA 2022. That thanks for your attention. I'm sorry for my mistake. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much. Before we start the webinar, let me read you the regulations for today's webinar. In this case, let me switch my language into Bahasa Indonesia. pertama, nama akun yang digunakan untuk Zoom harus sesuai dengan nama yang digunakan saat mengisi link pendaftaran. 2. Peserta wajib menyalakan kamera dan menggunakan virtual background yang sudah disiapkan oleh panitia. 3. Peserta diharapkan tidak meninggalkan Zoom saat acara webinar sedang berlangsung. 4. Peserta dimohon untuk tidak mengaktifkan fitur mikrofon sebelum ada instruksi dari panitia atau pemateri. 5. Peserta dapat bertanya kepada narasumber saat sesi tanya jawab. Peserta yang bertanya sebelum sesi tanya jawab, maka pertanyaannya tidak akan dibacakan. Yang keenam, sesi tanya jawab dibuka dengan 3 sampai 5 pertanyaan. Yang ketujuh, ketika sesi tanya jawab berlangsung, peserta dapat bertanya kepada speakers secara langsung dengan menggunakan fitur raise hand terlebih dahulu atau memanfaatkan fitur chat box Zoom dengan format nama, _instansi, _pertanyaan. Yang kedelapan, acara berakhir ketika durasi waktu habis atau ketika sudah tidak ada lagi pertanyaan. Yang kesembilan, peserta diharapkan mengisi link absensi atau evaluasi yang akan dikirimkan pada akhir acara melalui Zoom sebagai syarat untuk mendapatkan sertifikat. Yang ke-10, batas maksimal pengisian link absensi atau evaluasi adalah pukul 15.10 waktu Indonesia Barat, terhitung 3 jam dari berakhirnya webinar internasional. Well, today we have a great moderator who will guide this webinar. She is Miss Fatma Oryza. She graduated from English Language Education Department, Faculty of Tarbiyah and Teacher Training, UINSA Ampel Surabaya, and worked as master teacher English.
Mastering language itself. Okay, jadi language ini has also become an important tool. It's like a gate for us to access many important and also great knowledge so that it becomes the bare minimum for you to master language in this modern era. Well, fortunately, UPBA realizes this importance and accommodate our need to improve our language ability by conducting this webinar. So good job for UPBA Winston Ampel Surabaya. All right. So without further ado, and also you worry not because we're going to learn more about language and how to increase our creativity and innovation in order to compete in this modern era. Worry not, we get our amazing speakers that will enlighten us with their experience and also their knowledge. And we have three speakers. We have three amazing speakers that will bring three different topics. So the first one is Mr. Firman Santriyo. He's going to bring the topic about the gain of mastering multiple languages in the modern era. And the second one, we got Miss Zalfa Jatmiko, and she'll bring the topic, the secret of getting scholarship. Ooh, she will spill some tea, guys, after this. Okay, and the last one, we got Mr. David Friedrich, and he'll bring the topic about the role of English in youth achievement. Okay, so these sessions is going to be a series of small sessions. So I really hope that you can maximize this opportunity, and because you already spend your time, your Saturday morning to join this webinar instead of going back to sleep. So well, that needs an appreciation, and let's maximize that struggle by actively participating this event. And please, you can drop your question in the chat box, and I'll read it once we finish our talks. Okay, so whenever you got any question in your mind, just drop it on the chat box, and I'll read it later on when it's time for Q&A session. Okay, all right. So I think without further ado, we can jump into our first session. Okay, so the first session, we're going to talk about multiple languages. Okay, before I invite Miss Mr. Firman here. I'll say some word first. Karena di sini pentingnya apa sih belajar multiple languages? Jadi kalau misalkan belajar multiple languages, it can really make your CV stand out. Bisa banget bikin kalian beda banget CV kalian pas apply anything. Nah, Mr. Firman sendiri merupakan koordinator dari Polyglot Indonesia Chapter of Surabaya. FYI, if you join a polyglot, itu adalah kemampuan untuk menguasai banyak bahasa. Aduh, ini belajar satu bahasa aja butuh les sana sini ya. Gimana ya caranya Mr. Firman ini bisa menguasai banyak bahasa? We're going to find that out later. And he's also a public relations of IISMA Jerman and also a French teacher at SMA Muhammadiyah 10 Surabaya. And he speaks Indonesian, Japanese, English, French, and Germany. Okay, so 5 languages. You must be curious on how he did that, how he did learn all those languages, and we're going to find out in a minute. So I'll invite Mr. Firman Santriyo. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Miss Fatma Oryza, or I call you Miss Fatma or Oryza. So let me introduce again myself. Thank you for introduction from the Miss Oryza.
So I'll invite Mr. Firman Santriyo. The floor is yours.
Okay, so my name is Firman, Miss Fatma Oryza, or I call you Miss Fatma or Oryza. So oh wait, I'm sorry, I'm listening the echoes. Introduction from the Miss Oryza.
So I'll invite Mr. Firman Santriyo. The floor is
Okay,
yours.
so I continue.
So
My name is Firman. So I'm a regional coordinator of Polyglot Indonesia chapter of Surabaya, and also as already mentioned by Miss Oryza, at the moment I work by IISMA Chairman, or you can say Kute Institute, Surabaya. And also I am a French teacher at the moment as a freelance. And then today I would like to share you something about my experiences of learning some languages, some by chance, some by mandatory. Okay, so before coming to this section of my section, wait a moment, I listen some echoes. Do you guys also listen?
Yeah, I hear it here as well. Yeah, I believe
Okay.
because they share the screen with the audio. Yeah.
Okay, maybe the committee can help. So we jump again, and then before coming to my session, first I would like to give you information like there are 3 points that I write on my PPT. First is listen, and then be here and participate. Why these 3 points are important? First, when you listen, you will need more attention, and then when you are fully listen, you should be here in this event. And even though you just listen, but you are not here, your mind is traveling, so you can get participate. So you should memorizing and also make a note that listen, be here, and participate. So okay, we jump to the next slide, please. So what is multilingual exactly? As Miss Oryza already mentioned, so people who can speak many languages, we cannot say actually how many, but because when you speak 2 languages, it's called as bilingual. And when you speak 3 languages, it's also called as trilingual. But when you speak more than 3, about 4 or 5 languages, you can also call yourself as a polyglot. But if you speak more than 5 languages, it is also called as hyperpolyglot. So, but in multilingual, in general meaning, it's people who can speak more than 1 language. So basically, here I already give you information like multilingual is use of more than 1 language. So multilinguals also can be speakers or a group of people. So I also can say that I'm multilingual, but to be multilingual doesn't always say that you only can speak foreign languages. Your local languages also can be counted because it's also language. So don't be ashamed when you only speak um, many local languages, but instead you should also improve your foreign languages to support yourself to competing with the modern era. Okay, we jump to the next slide. So while learning multiple languages is important, learning multiple languages give more advantages to support some aspects such as cognitive, communication, and health. So increasing creativity is the first point that I wrote, because when you speak one more than one language, your brain or your brain will works differently by others. So for example, when you learn English, you will involve yourself to get adapt with the grammar, the structure, and then it also stimulates your brain to think like in the English way. And when you speak the other language, like I learned French, this also forced me to think like French in a French language, in a French atmosphere. Also, when I start learning German 2 years ago, so it's also quite confusing because all the grammars, all the structures are different, and it also give me advantages when I need to solve a problem and when I need to force myself to think creatively, and it gives me somehow advantage the way my brain works be better than when I speak only one local language or one native language. So this is one of the advantages that if you want to be multiple languages if you speak more than one language, and also improve your analytical skills. Back then again, because when you learn a language, you will also force yourself to get to know why this pattern be like this, why that, and also improve your analytical skill. How, like for example, when you speak in Indonesian, the past tense only put tadi or kemarin, but when you speak in English, you will also need to use passive, past tense. And the way past tense works in English and in French and in German are different. That also stimulate your brain to be very analytical, and it's also improve you to be a person that more analytical in any ways. And then the third point, strengthen your brain muscles. The late of my grandma, she speaks Dutch, even though in the past the elder people speak also Dutch. And then in her age, 87, she can also still speak Dutch and English and Indonesian. And then she can also still what's it call it, filling the quiz in Dutch, and then it prevents her to Alzheimer. So that's why when you learn many languages or more than one language, it will strengthen your brains and prevent you from Alzheimer. For those who don't know what is Alzheimer, is you have to write the meaning from the language you are learning at the moment and then from your native language. Then you will enrich your vocabulary. And the next point is develops global relationships. This is also one of the important advantages, because when you speak many languages, it will break the language barriers. Not fully, but then maybe if you are fully advanced or you are a native in the native level, it will exactly break the language barriers. But if you are at the moment your level is somehow pre-intermediate or intermediate, can be still break the language barrier. So when you already breaking the language barrier, your relationships, communication also can be better, and then yeah, develop communication and global relationship, and create security for work. This doesn't mean like in Indonesia, it doesn't mean like security like satpam. No, it means like if you are able to speak many languages, there are always many opportunities. You can also, if you, for example, you speak Arabic, you can work as a translator, or you can work as an interpreter, or you can be also MC in both languages like Arabic and English, or Arabic and Indonesian, because it will secure your opportunities to find work. That's why I mentioned this point. Okay, so we jump to the next slide, please. And how to be multilingual. Again, this is from my perspective. When it comes to decide how to prepare yourself to be a multilingual speaker, there are several points to consider. First is set your language goals. Um, because there are so many people who like learning languages, it's fine. But from my opinion, when you want to learn a language, you have to know why. Why do you want to learn that language? Because if you don't know and you don't have a goal, and then you just waste your time, and then you cannot be focused on it. For example, why do I learn French? Because languages
Recording in
you are
progress.
learning, because you will also know how the language exactly deliver and how the language actually works, because those arts tools can also entertain you, not really force you. And the last one is live abroad or live in multilingual city. If you have a chance to live overseas, yeah, there will be you are lucky, or maybe I can say it's interesting. But if you don't have a chance yet, you can also live in a multilingual city in your country. I mean, in for example, in Indonesia, we can say maybe Bali or Yogyakarta. You can also speak there, because in Yogyakarta there are so many universities which give you um, options to learn many languages. Okay, next slide, please. Now I want to ask your participants, or maybe from the chat, it's okay. So because I give you some vocabularies, name the language of the words below. Do you know what are the languages? All the words have the same meaning, but different languages. I mean, I don't speak all the languages here, but I choose which is almost similar. Anybody knows? Okay, so I give you the answer. The first is German, and the second one is French. So the first pronunciation is pour and livre for the French. For the third is libro, Italian, and the fourth is book, Dutch, and the last one is book, is Swedish. So this only just intermezzo for you. Okay, the next. Then I also would like to ask you, who are they and how many languages do they speak? Do you know? Maybe the left one is familiar for you, but maybe the right one also familiar for you. Any ideas? So I am sure that the life one, you know, it's our first, and I don't know how many languages he actually mastered it, but the thing I know is he speaks 24 foreign languages and 10 local languages. Okay, next slide, please. And this slide content consists of which languages are most in demand. I didn't say that the other languages from out of this list are not important, but this is I take it from the UN languages. So the list of the languages I show you is the English, Chinese, Russian, French, Arabic, and Spanish. So these six languages, yeah, six languages are mostly in demand because it is used in United Nations. That's why I choose French. That's the first reason I learned French. But yeah, who knows? Because when one door is open, there is always another door also open, right? So when you maybe you dream to learn French, maybe the next year you will learn Spanish by chance. I don't know, because life is always dynamic. So that's why we need to prepare first. And the last, the next slide, please. I don't know. Is it possible to play?
Hello, I'm
Yeah.
Lucian and I'm age 73.
My name is Gabby, and I'm 6.
I'm Mr. Morley. I'm 32 years old, and I'm the NFL. Right.
Maybe it's a bit. Maybe the committee can also please stop it. It's okay. So actually, this this video I just wanted to add here because this school actually teach the students about multi languages, and since they're kids, so the important things about the many languages should be taught. It's really important. Okay. Um, can you please move to the next slide, please?
Hello.
Okay. Uh, okay. So this is the next slide. Here I just want to ask you, which language do you actually familiar or know of the list that I show you? I don't ask you the meaning. I just ask you what are the languages you actually know, and what are the languages there. Russian, yeah. So is this correct? Russian. So there are Russian, English, French, and German. And I don't speak Russian. It's interesting, but it's challenging. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so we come to the end, and in French we say la fin. La fin means the end. So merci beaucoup. Thank you. Back to Miss Oryza.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Firman. Please give a virtual applause for Mr. Firman. Thank you so much, Mr. Firman, for enlightening us about the beauty of multi languages. And also, he also mentioned about the why is it important and how to master it, and also language that are most in demand. But let me summarize that again in Bahasa Indonesia so that all of us can fully understand about the materials. Jadi tadi di Kak Firman benar-benar ngasih pentingnya nih, pentingnya mempelajari banyak language. Karena nih, dengan kamu mempelajari banyak bahasa, itu akan membuka many limitless opportunity ya Kak Firman ya. Itu bisa ngebuat kamu bahkan kamu bisa berkesempatan nih untuk kerja di the United Nations dengan menguasai bahasa yang tadi udah ditunjukin juga sama Kak Firman. Ada beberapa bahasa yang menjadi top demand-nya nih kalau di United Nations. And by mastering multiple language, it will definitely make you as an outstanding applicant, so that your chance of getting accepted becomes higher. Gitu. Kayak jadi kesempatannya banyak banget dengan kamu belajar banyak bahasa. And even though you do not want to get involved in language field, worry not, because learning multiple language will also will also do great to your brain, because it makes you think critically, and also it makes your analytical skills becomes great also. Okay, jadi banyak banget manfaatnya, dan Kak Firman juga udah ngasih tahu dengan jelas ya kenapanya dan bagaimana kita bisa master those multiple languages. Oke, untuk bagaimananya nih, pokoknya kamu set goals dan juga tadi banyak langkahnya nih yang udah dikasih tahu Kak Firman. Dan yang penting yang aku garis bawahi juga ya, familiarize yourself with the language gitu. Jadi familiarkan diri kamu, deketin dengan banyak language dengan cara menonton film, dengan listening to music juga, dan banyak langkah yang udah diceritain oleh Kak Firman. So thank you so much Kak Firman for the knowledge that you've given us. Nah, I believe some of you already have some questions in your mind. So if you have further question to ask directly to the Kak Firman, please drop it on the chat box and I'll read it later on after our talks are over. Okay, so let's move on. Anyway, thank you so much for Kak Firman. We'll talk again more after this ya, Kak Firman. Okay, so let's move on to the next session. We have our second session. And in this session, after we learn about the importance and how to master multiple languages, let's take it into the real action by listening to the secret of getting scholarship. So it will be brought by Miss Zalfa, Jatmiko. Kak Zalfa udah di sini ya. Oke, Kak Zalfa ini, let me say briefly about her profile. So she's an awardee of IISMA and Beswan Djarum. Jadi pengalamannya untuk getting scholarship udah banyak banget nih. Yang mana itu membawa dia buat belajar di Queensland University of Technology Australia and Sapienza University of Rome, Italy. Italia ya. Di sana makan banyak pasta nggak, Kak? Oke, terus juga belajar di Turki juga ya. Wah, banyak banget nih experience-nya terkait getting scholarship. And also, she is one of the mahasiswa berprestasi Indonesia 2021. Oke, dan masih banyak lagi nih achievement dari Kak Zalfa. Kita bisa dengerin langsung ya dari Kak Zalfa juga. Dan kita mau cari tahu nih tips dan juga strateginya gimana. Oke, Kak Zalfa udah di sini ya. Oke, Kak Zalfa balik dari Italia kapan nih, Kak Zalfa?
Kemarin bulan Maret.
Bulan Maret, wah masih fresh banget nih berarti. Oke guys, berarti yuk kita cari tahu nih caranya Kak Zalfa dan juga kita mau curi tips and triknya. Oke, silakan Kak Zalfa.
Oke, ini suara saya kedengeran jelas nggak Kak Fatma?
Aman Kak.
Aman ya. Oke, mungkin aku share screen-nya sekarang ya. Oke, teman-teman bisa lihat udah? Full?
Belum full screen sih, Kak. Oh, udah.
Udah? Oke. Okay, then. Let's begin, ya. Good day, everyone. My name is Zalfa Jatmiko. Before we begin this session, I would like to convey my gratitude to IINSA, to Kak Fatma, and also other committees for extending their invitation and warm welcome. I am very privileged to be here with other distinguished speakers like Firman and Mr. David to share on my personal academic experience on, being a scholarship recipient and also the secrets on getting one. Okay, so there will be several ground rules that I would like to set out before I begin. So first, UINSA asked me to explain everything in English. So there will be times where I can speak too fast or unclearly. And when those times happen, please do not hesitate to stop me. Just, unmute yourself and say, Kak, you're too fast, or Kak, I cannot understand anything that you said, because it's fine. My priority for this morning is you guys, and I have 30 minutes to, share my secrets with you. So that's why I do not hesitate to stop myself. Okay, the secret of getting scholarship. This is my profile. Kak Fatma has explained to you guys about me. Okay, now on to the first slide. The world is changing, everyone, because world needs more people with the ability to solve problems. And sometimes they forgot that those skills should be honed for a long time. It requires a long time investment, and frankly, it is very expensive. Now, it is no secret that education world often make itself blind to socioeconomic discrepancies of the students. Economic gap thus become one of the reasons why students cannot pursue academic experience and increase their potential. It goes back to the questions of privileges, of opportunities and stuff. And so that's where scholarship comes in. It promotes inclusivity, and it also eliminates economic gap. Scholarship enabled me to travel to many places in all parts of the world. I've been to Turkey, I've been to Rome, I've been to Finland, and I will not be able to go to those places if I don't have assistance from sponsors, from good people who wanted to invest their money to me so that I can see the world, I can meet new people, and I can expand my network. But the takeaway about scholarship is that because the world is getting more inclusive, the competition state becomes higher. Everyone in this world is competing. So when you are applying for scholarship, you're not only competing with people that came from Surabaya or came from Indonesia. You are competing with people from all parts of the world who have the same ambitions, who have the same visions as you are. Like for instance, Kak Fatma before, she is a delegate to Australian scholarship or something. She competes not only with Indonesian students, but also students from perhaps Australia who also wanted to be delegate but know about Indonesia. So that's why, it's very hard. So that's why instead of saying secrets of getting a scholarship, I would prefer saying strategy. Why? Because war is not won only by strength of bones, but also by strength of minds. So you need to have a good strategy to conquer something. So now let's begin. I have 5 strategy for all of you to use. So please open your notes now and write it down. First, conduct a proper research. Second, understand the scholarship qualifications. Third, never prepare everything by yourself. Fourth, expand your professional network. And 5, never depend on one plan. This is the 5 key that I want you to always remember. I want you to always, let it sink into your mind before I elaborate each point one by one. Okay, you have taken notes, you have taken screenshots. Let's move on to the next slide. Number 1, conduct proper research. I can never stress enough the importance of doing a proper research. Aim wisely. After going through several scholarships during my school, I realizes that the world offers a variety of scholarship from different institutions with different goals. So, for example, take it from my personal story. This is a bit embarrassing, but you know what? Okay. In 2016, I got scholarship from QT and Jawa Pos. It is a summer school scholarship. It gave me the opportunity to go to Australia and to learn the importance of sustainable technology. Now, the takeaway is summer scholarship. So this scholarship is different from, for example, Djarum Foundation scholarship, which I get 2 years ago. It is a scholarship designed for high achieving students. So the aim is different. The person who gave the scholarship is different, and the vision and the mission of the scholarship is also different. And also, last year, I got a scholarship from the Indonesian Ministry of Research and Education. It is different scholarship from the other types that I've got because it is a 1 semester scholarship. So why does I explain all of this? Why did I highlight why all of these scholarship have different themes? It's because when you wanted to apply for scholarship, you need to understand exactly what you need and what you want. So for instance, if you are students with a good academic performance and good scores, for instance, then look for a scholarship that is looking for student qualifications like the one that you have. If you have passion in design, if you have passion in video editing, then try to look scholarship that are looking for students like you are, because that's very important in the selection process. They are looking for a specific kind of students with a very specific things that they think they can facilitate to be better. Okay, that's the importance of conducting a proper research. Now, are some of the webs that you can use for references to begin your own research. I have compiled 6 webs that you can use. Please screenshot this. I got these webs from my friends, from the people that I met in my school who have been to many places in the world. And the thing about this web is that they give you filters, so you can actually find the scholarship that you want. For instance, if you wanted to find fully funded scholarship, or if you wanted to find scholarship for conferences or seminars or competitions, they gave you the search engine, and it will just it helps you a lot. Okay, have you guys screenshot this? If yes, I'll move on. Next, understand the scholarship qualifications. This is also very important because you need to understand the scholarship requirements. Now, the key takeaway that I wanted you guys to always remember is that place yourself in the investor's shoes. So if I am Djarum and I wanted to invest my money to high achieving students, then what are the things that I wanted to find in my prospective awardees? Like, for instance, in Djarum Foundation Scholarship, they are looking for students with high academic performance. So they are looking for students above average. So please be aware with your ability. Like, for instance, if your academic performance is only like 3.5 out of 4 in your total GPA, it doesn't make you stupid. It just shows you that Djarum is not the right place for you. Find other scholarship that has qualifications that does not require a high numbers of GPA. Now let's look at, for instance, IISMA. IISMA doesn't really require high numbers, like high scores in your GPA. What they are looking for is student with passion, to learn about new cultures and be adaptive in foreign places. This is a photo that I take before the Colosseum. I am with my friends. They came from Spain and also the US. Now, IISMA is designed to give students the opportunity to come to a foreign place and to actually adapt and adjust themselves to the new environment. And so this kind of scholarship requested for different features than Djarum. So that's why, to really understand and to really analyze what is it that's being requested is very, very important, because do not waste your opportunity. I have so many friends who fail on getting scholarship just because they don't understand their ability, just because they don't understand themselves, just because they don't understand where to place themselves. And that's very, very dangerous. So I'm telling you this now. Be aware with what you need and with what you want, okay? Moving on next. Never prepare everything by yourself. This is also another important that is very, very important for, especially for new students who never apply for scholarship. I learned this point in a hard way. Before I get the scholarship that I wanted, I experienced lots of failures. And after some time, I realized the reason of my failure was not solely because of my inability or my incompetences, but also because I do everything by myself. So you see, when you apply to scholarship, sometimes they're requested for CV or motivation letter. It is basically a document to show to them, who are you? Like what kind of person you are. How can you prove to them that the scholarship that you are applying for is the right scholarship for you to grow both as a person and as a student? So you need person, you need someone to help you, someone with more experiences to tell you, no, this is not the right format for CV. No, this is not the proper motivation letter, and stuff. So now let's look at CV. This is my CV that I used for applying the 3 scholarships that I just showed you before. What I learned from CV is that you need to make it very readable, and it needs to be tailor-made. What does tailor-made mean? Tailor-made means is that when you want to apply to a program A, then your CV needs to look exactly like what the program A wanted. And you cannot use the CV for program A to apply for program B. Because, like, for instance, what I showed you before, Djarum wants, mahasiswa prestasi, or they want students with high scores, but it doesn't apply to IISMA. IISMA wants students that can show they have 1,000, or if not a dozen of international exposures and experience to show them that they can survive abroad. So that's why readable and tailor-made is very important. I also have cited several apps that you can use to create. As of now, all of my friends have been going crazy about Kinobi. It is an application that gave you, it like facilitated, when you wanted to make a CV, you just input your achievements, your work experience, and then they just made this automatic format that can be read by engines of, well, apparently all companies in the whole world. So it's kind of cool. So you can refer yourself to Kinobi. Okay, so this is very important. Ask for help. 2 eyes are always better than one. Okay? Okay, next screenshot, please. Next. Let's move on to motivation letter. Now, this is actually my favorite part. Motivation letter is very important because there are no people in this world who can give you the formula of a perfect motivation letter. Each person understands motivation letter differently. Each scholarship giver wants different motivation letters. But there are four things that I can give to you as a strategy. Please write something with efficient words. Let it be effective, professional, and also tailor-made. So there are three things that you need to remember. First, before you do your motivation letter, do your research. Before you start writing, find out more about the company or the specific job or the specific scholarship that you wanted. Of course, you should always carefully read the job descriptions and also, look at the website because, well, I won't sugarcoat anything. People like it more, when you understand exactly what you're applying for. So if you're applying for scholarship that asks you to go to Europe for one semester, and then after you got in, you realize that, oh my God, I'm not ready. I don't want to go to Europe. I want to go to US or I want to go elsewhere. Well, that could be dangerous. And second, focus on the future. While your resume or your motivation letter is meant to look back at your experience and where you've been, the motivation letter should focus on the future and what you wanted to do. So for instance, it can be helpful, to think your motivation letter as a bridge between the past and the future and explains what you hope to do next and why. So for instance, when I was in the selection for IISMA, one of the key questions is that, what are the academic hurdles that you faced before and how do you overcome it? I remember the way I answered that question was by showing to them that I was very, very surprised by the environment that I get in my university. So since elementary school to SMA, I'm always in sekolah negeri, always in national curriculum. And when I got into the university, I was enrolled in international program. So since my first year, I've been studying with students from Thailand, from Philippines, from Malaysia, and I was very, very surprised because all of them speak English, none of them can speak Indonesia. I cannot be close to them because we have different language, because we came from different countries, we have different vision, we have different mission. And that's the academic hurdles that I faces. Because in your first year of university, all you wanted to do is, expand your connections. And I feel like I was restricted from doing that because of these barriers. Now, however, by overcoming these challenges, I can show to IISMA that I have displayed the ability to adjust and familiarize myself with people coming from different countries, and I survive out of those challenges. So that's kind of point that you wanted to make. And next, have a strong opening. It means that people typically write themselves into the letter with, I'm applying for X job, I saw in something. Well, that's a waste. You need to open it with a strong opening sentences. Start with a punch, like, why is this job exciting to you? What you wanted to bring to the table. So for example, you wanted to write, I've always dreamed of going to Italy. Italy. I've always dreamed of, traveling abroad and blah, 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 blah. Just have a strong opening and be intimate. Next, 5, expand your professional network. By expanding your professional network, you can make yourself invisible. You can make yourself visible when you're applying for scholarship. Sometimes when you're applying for scholarship, they ask for reference or the people that can, I forgot the word. It's like they sponsor you, they can testify that you are the exact individuals that you are portraying to them. And this is where professional network is very, very important. When I applied to IISMA, I put my, the people reference that I made is the people that I met when I was in conference in Turkey. They can testify to the scholarship that I am the individual that I am describing in my motivation letter. It just opens more doors, It makes you visible. It opens you more doors. It gave you it lets you to many opportunities that I just can't explain just how important this is. So start expanding your professional network now. Be friends with everyone. Be open to everyone. It's very, very important. Next, never depend on one plan. This is also some of the very, very amateur mistakes that most of the people make. So for instance, in January, they only apply for one scholarship. Well, that's wrong. Before I get IISMA or Djarum or the QT Citizen Scholarship, I applied to many things. Like in 1 month, I can apply to 5 scholarships at one time. And most of the time, I am rejected in all of those 5 scholarships. So, look at the numbers, 1 to 5, and you are rejected in all 5. So try to apply to as many scholarships as you wanted. Search every day, understand exactly what you wanted, what you need, and the places that you wanted to be, and just apply. Never think like, oh no, I don't think I can get in, I'm not qualified for this. My CV ku nggak bagus gitu. It's not good enough. No, just apply. If you get rejected, that'll just be another rejection. And if you get acceptance, that's also great for you, right? Okay. Oh, that's it. That's all the strategy that I can share to you guys now. I hope this experience can be motivating. I hope it can broaden your lenses. I hope it can give you new tools and new equipments so that you can go outside, fight the world, and be in the places that you want. Thank you. I'll give the floor back to Kak Fatma.
Thank you so much, Kak Zalfa. Okay, thank you so much for equipping us with the new weapon for scholarship hunters. Oke, tadi udah di screenshot belum? Itu tadi udah bener-bener di spill tuh. Bahkan link-linknya buat nyari opportunity-nya udah di spill juga. Oke, I really hope that you use that opportunity well before you yourself start applying for this scholarship. Okay, before I move on, please allow me ya Kak Zalfa ya untuk summarize yang tadi sedikit ke dalam bahasa Indonesia supaya kita semua bisa fully understand and please Kak Zalfa, you can correct me if there's anything you want to add in Indonesian version. So ada 5 strategi nih yang tadi ditekankan oleh Kak Zalfa. Yang pertama yaitu conduct proper research. Iya, ini memang kemampuan untuk ngeriset nih itu penting banget. Oke, untuk penting banget yang mana yang berhubungan sama langkah kedua juga, kamu harus nyari kualifikasi dari si beasiswanya. Oke, dan tadi tips juga dari Kak Zalfa yang udah disampaikan yaitu place yourself in the investor's shoes. I can bisa juga percaya itu karena itu juga yang dulu aku lakuin nih pas aku apply scholarship. Kalau misalkan kita tuh harus lihat dulu scholarship-nya ini kayak gimana sih. Dan yang paling penting yang dicari itu bukan yang paling pintar atau yang paling apa, tapi yang paling cocok sama programnya dan juga investornya. So make sure kamu riset itu dengan baik dan tuh bisa banget untuk di riset. Jadi jangan malas buat ngeriset ya. Langkah ketiga itu never prepare alone. We can stand on the shoulder of giants. Kita bisa banget manfaatin orang lain buat ya belajar juga dari mereka, minta juga proofreading juga tentang CV. CV-nya make sure di-personalize alias dicocokin sama programnya itu sendiri dan motivation letter-nya tadi juga udah dikasih saran sama Kak Zalfa buat ngasih punchline atau hook ya di depan motivation letter-nya. Dan langkah keempat yaitu expand professional network. Nah, ini networking itu berguna banget nih. Bisa juga buat testimonials juga yang kayak Kak Zalfa bilang dan itu juga benar-benar ngasih kita new opportunities dan juga membantu kita untuk ikut program kayak gini dengan testimoni juga yang kayak Kak Zalfa bilang tadi. Dan yang terakhir, never depend on one plan. Oke, aku bisa confirm itu sih yang ya dibalik semua keberhasilan ikut scholarship tadi, dibaliknya tuh banyak banget kegagalannya gitu. And that's okay, normalize failure from now on. Karena itu cuma phase aja. Karena kalau misalkan kamu dapat kegagalan tuh kamu bisa banget belajar dari hal itu. Untuk next-nya kamu perbaiki supaya lebih oke lagi nih strategi kamu dalam ikutan scholarship yang lain. So never give up and ya udah santai aja. I realize kalau misalkan banyak anak zaman sekarang tuh yang takut gagal, takut dilihat orang gagal, udah terlanjur upload Twitter ke program ini.
Betul, gagal.
Aduh, relatable ya. Tapi that's okay. It's part of the learning process gitu. Oke, that will be it. Ada yang mau ditambahin Kak Zalfa mungkin?
Enggak, udah sempurna banget. Makasih Kak
Oke,
Fatma.
oke. Kak Zalfa. Kalau gitu, thank you so much for Kak Zalfa session. We're going to be back later on the talk show session. But now on, from now, well, now we're going to move on to the third speaker, which is Mr. David Friedrich. Am I pronouncing it
Yeah,
correctly,
that's okay.
Mr. David?
David Friedrich, yeah. That's
Friedrich.
okay.
Oh, okay. Okay, please allow me to mention his profile. So Mr. David is a professional teacher, and he has been professionally teaching at companies, government institutions, schools, teachers, celebrities. Ooh, who did you teach?
That was
I'm curious.
Saskia and Shireen was that a while ago. I'm sure you know those.
You did? Oh my God. Okay. And also business owners and children. Okay. So he's like, he's got many experience in teaching English, and his session will be about the role of English in youth achievement. Okay. So, yeah, Mr. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Waiting for the first slide there. So nice to meet you, everyone. Thank you all for joining today. I hope I can, highlight why it is important and good to know English, to speak English, and actually apply it in, your career later on and also in your study. One moment as we wait for the slide to come up. Sure. Yeah. So, yes. Could we, put it on full screen? Is that possible? Yeah. Just to enlarge it, yeah. Thank you. Okay, the English language itself, used, spoken worldwide. How many nations do we have in the world? Let me check. 195 registered countries in the world, and 67 of those actually registered English as the official language. 400 million native speakers overall. Okay, most widely spoken and written language. Yes, of course. And the idea here is that, especially if you apply later on for scholarship abroad, likely, for example, the US, the UK, Australia, Canada, these countries stand out. They're quite popular. But not only those countries, especially also when you go to China, let's say China, Singapore, they do speak English there as well. And it's likely that you encounter people that speak English. So if you were to go abroad and use only Indonesian, that would be very difficult, right? So if you ever plan on either traveling or doing business abroad or trying to study abroad, it's always good to know English, to speak English. Okay, thank you. The next slide. Yes. So when we talk about studying, during your study, like especially with the university here, likely you'll encounter students, lecturers, or materials, books in your study, during your study, that are written in English, or lectures that are speaking English, right? So especially also on the campus, when you meet other students, fellow students, likely also there you'll meet people, like say exchange students, people from abroad, and foreigners basically that study the same, and you'll be exposed to English. How do you communicate with them? Of course, in English. And especially when you do your research, your study, the books, many of those come from abroad, either translated or only partially translated, and you end up again being exposed to English as a language, right? So likely you'll have to use it, and it will be very useful, very good for you. if you do speak it. Okay, next slide. So career, we talk about that, your opportunities, your chances later on after you study, especially after you study, then it's about finding a job, getting employed. So there are different fields of employment, the different industries you can get into depending on the major that you chose. I've listed some here on this page. Banking, finance is also a growing market. Artificial intelligence, which is quite interesting as we move forward into modern era, modern age, right? Everything becomes technologically much more advanced. Many processes try to be automated, and then hence you need robotics, automation processes, anything that helps with that. And likely those use English. No, I will later on speak of that in a bit more detail. Next, healthcare sector always growing, always in need of nurses, practitioners. So especially now after the pandemic, right? It's high in demand. So data science and analytics, the idea here as well in this kind of market, the more people that use social media, connect socially online through various networks, the more data is being processed or needs to be processed. Many businesses depend on that kind of statistics or data. So there's likely for you to be dealing with English as a language as well. And technology, biomedical. So this is a very interesting field actually now, because what they're trying to do is they try to merge the idea of physics with biology and try to make it work for them technologically to further advance technology in itself. They try to merge these two fields. So now, right now, there's much study that is done in this kind of field. And that, of course, is an international effort, right? It's not just done nationally, but internationally as well. So once again, you'll need English if you want to be competitive in that field. And likely these companies are international companies. Then tourism, hospitality as well. If you seek employment in that industry, then likely too you will have travelers, any kind of people that come from abroad, and how do you communicate with them? Of course, not just in your native language, you need another language that they all understand. And most likely that would be English. Or even you go to Italy, let's say you work in Italy, even you may learn Italian there, but you still need English, because also they will receive tourist travelers from abroad that then speak English or have to speak English, right? So digital internet marketing, yes, this industry as well. Anything social media related, right? In order to broaden your horizon to reach many other markets, likely you'll have to use English in order to approach all of those different countries, different markets, right? So software and technology, the last one, I'll speak more on that later. The idea here as well, technology, data is mostly, for example, the coding itself is done in a coding language, but this language utilizes English. Coding language is done using English. So also there you have to get used to the English language as well. So this is just so a broad overview, also more of a modern look, perhaps, what kind of industries are high in demand or are now, let's say, emerging. Okay, thank you. Yeah, next slide. So, 1 second. Okay, that letter S is cut off there. Business. So, especially during pandemic, right? Many started to hope to survive and found some ways to make money. And some started like a startup company, like the one in the middle, right? Started his own company. So we've seen many startups popping up during the pandemic phase. and doing business, especially here to establish yourself nationally, that is okay. You can use Indonesian, right? But as soon as you want to expand the market, right, establish yourself internationally, then you'll need as a language again. In order to connect with others, especially Indonesia is right next to Singapore. Singapore serves as like this huge hub in Asia, and they speak English. So any kind of business people that do international, let's say trading, international businesses, they will speak of Singapore, through which much of this is done, and they need English as a language. No? So 1 second, I hope my connection is stable. Yes, management itself. So business, yeah, it's quite quite diverse, especially with all these different positions and different departments, depending on the size. So you'll likely end up meeting someone at some department there in your company that speaks English, that is from another nation, right? Or they have a department, human resource department, right, that outsource international clients or potential employees. So okay, and research. I like this one as well, because you have to do research in your market, and then likely this ends up being international or potentially international clients or companies that are actually originally from abroad that have established locally. And then you'll see English writing again. So English is here as well when you do business, very helpful. Also many of the business slogans, right? Marketing wise, much of it is written in English. So that is helpful there as well. Thank you. The next slide, please. Yeah, the next next slide. That's possible. Not sure whether the slide manager is still there. But Miss Fatma, I'm still audible, right?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes. Okay.
Probably there's I
Oh,
the
okay.
presenter.
There's a delay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's just wait for a second.
Also,
Untuk
let's just
panitia. Oke, untuk panitia mungkin bisa di next
yeah,
slide ya.
and
Okay, so David, you can continue.
yeah. Also, when you meet clients, international clients, like you see the photo on the lower right, it's also there likely that you engage with people from abroad, foreigners. Of medicine there as well, especially with the pandemic, everything has gone global, therefore, and research that's being conducted likely is not, especially when you look at Indonesia, how much in the medical field does Indonesia contribute, right? Internationally or globally, in treatment of any kind of sicknesses, illnesses, and in regards to the pandemic especially, this mostly is an international effort, right? It's done in institutions not only in Indonesia or in Asia, but also in Europe or America. So likely there as well that you will read anything. Many of the descriptions of prescriptions are in English, right? Many of these, if you talk about biology, chemistry, many of these terms and books that you encounter will be written in English. So also there, if you treat clients or patients, I've seen it myself. If you go somewhere, I'm in Jakarta, located in Jakarta, based in Jakarta. If you go to a doctor here that's somewhere central located, they'll also end up having to speak English because many foreigners, they stay in Jakarta and they will get patients basically from abroad, from different nations, and they end up having to speak in English. So even though you believe, okay, I will want to work in medicine, but in Indonesia, one way or another, it's likely that you'll have to use English. So this is works well for you if you speak English now. Okay, Yes. Okay, let's just move on to the next slide first. If that's possible, yeah. Yes, thank you. Science and research, yes, that is very interesting, especially for you, you the one studying, right? So to further study, to further expand in your research, you have to go beyond Indonesia or another. Even let's say that is China. Do you want to learn Chinese then in order to read the books? Many of the books are actually then translated into a more, broader, accessible language that is English. So likely you read many research paper books in English. Yes, and research again, shared effort depending on the science that you're active in, biological science, natural science. I've listed just a few down there. Social science, especially social science. Many of the leading scientists, professors, books written in English from abroad, from the US, from Europe, right? When you learn about the inventors, for example, or those people that discovered or come up with their theories, likely from abroad. So once again, you'll need English in that field specifically, right? Okay, next slide, please. What other industry do we have? Technology, yes, ever developing field. Once again, this what I want to talk about, technology, IT based, right? I mean, if you think of automation, any processes that are being automated, you think of anything that needs somewhere a computer that is connected to it, right? So in much of it that relates to IT, computer systems uses coding language. You see it on the picture on the right, upper right. Coding. You have to program those machines or those robots, basically. And this language, this IT language uses English as a base. The terms that you have to type in, how it's communicating, the software itself are likely to be written in English. So it's harder for them to translate it into Indonesian. And that is harder to find the good software that has been translated into then also Indonesian. So again, English works very well for you. It's much easier for you to access and utilize different software that you need for anything technology related, right? Yeah. Whenever you see anything, also with these robots, and especially what happens now with Elon Musk going to the moon, the ISS, the International Space Station, all of these done in English, spoken in English, said in English, written in English, right? So it's much harder if you do not speak English to work in that field, right? You can do, but this is only on a national level. It's quite limited. So it works well for you, again, with English, this whole field. And all this is a shared effort. I've written down there. So an international effort, especially when you connect online with another network, then likely they will speak English, write English, communicate in English. Okay, thank you. Next slide. Because for you, the question is important, right? Once you finish your study, you're looking for the job. Well, what does the future look like? What field do you want to work in specifically? So you need to also have this idea, right? Keep that in mind. And then realize, oops, English would work quite well for me. And it's likely required. Can we see the next slide, please? Not sure who the slide manager is.
Okay, bisa move on to the next slide. Presenternya.
So, okay, thank you. So, and then travel tourism. Yes, most of us can relate to this one here. As soon as you step, you go abroad, go to another country, you step a foot abroad, then likely you'll encounter English. It starts with traveling, just going to the airport, right? Many of the terms written in English. Once you arrive in a country, even if, let's say you go to, let's say Japan, likely you will see much of it written in English, and they don't speak Indonesian. And perhaps you're not able to speak Japanese, but you're still able to travel. You're still able to get a hotel, to look around, to go around. And how do you do that? Using English. And they know that as well. So traveling, very important, especially if you're at a restaurant abroad. Let's imagine that is the picture on the lower left side. I believe it's Venice in Italy. How would you order something there if you do not speak Italian? Of course, you'll expect that the server, the waiter there, speaks English, right? So once again, you need English. As soon as you want to travel abroad, likely you'll have to use English if you want to order anything. So travel itself, yes, flying, air traffic. Yes, if you think towards air traffic, if you want to work in that industry, right? Most of it done in English, right? At the airplane, starts with the airplane controllers there, the airport, airfields, everything using English. The whole communication process in the aviation industry is done using English as an international language. So if you do not speak English, it's much harder, right? Much harder to go around. And travel tourism also enables you to connect with others, of course, to build these connections, to share, to talk with others abroad. And they know that themselves, right? Likely done in English. So yes, next slide, please. Politics, wow, and public relations. If that's like a field, after you finish your study and you want to, either further study towards this direction or seek employment in that industry, in this area, public relation is quite good, very important and needed always. Many companies, they need any kind of public relations officers, people that are there to communicate with the public, right? So this is very important, especially for the younger generation, for you. If your goal is to somehow, let's say, make a change, have an impact, right? Then likely you'll do that by raising your voice, getting your voice out there. And this is done using politics one way or another, or through the relations that we build with others, with other companies, with people that we connect with. And yes, politics is a very powerful tool if you want to go into this direction. And of course, how do you communicate locally in Indonesia, let's say? Of course, Indonesian is enough for that. But likely politics is always one or another influenced by anything internationally. So you'll meet foreigners there, or you have to communicate with people from abroad once again. So yes, global awareness, yes, and standing up for your rights, the freedom. Many of the political systems are also not from Indonesia. They are from abroad. If you study about those and get to really understand those, likely in the US, they just like in Indonesia, also basically fought for their freedom. So many of the political movements come from Europe, from the US. I'm not sure in China it's very different, right? So many of the systems, right? If you want to study about that, likely once again written in English. And to really deeply understand it, it's best to read about those that in the original language, right? Okay. Yes. Also to understand, let's say, the global politics worldwide. What do you read? Do you read the Indonesian newspaper writing about politics abroad, or do you take an international news outlet newspaper and read there what they say, let's say in the US or in Europe? What do they write about it? An English publication, basically. That is better, of course. If you have it originally from the country there, perhaps it's less biased. Okay. Yes, thank you. Next slide. Music, yes. I tried here to show some, yeah, some moments that we, yeah, encounter music. So most of us love music, of course. We listen to music, and I'm sure most of you know at least one, at least one song that's not Indonesian, right? That's from, let's say, the US top charts or from Europe, somewhere abroad, and likely the lyrics are then again in English, written in English. And this is also a good tool, right? If you want to, if you're learning English, right, to slowly get used to the vocabulary, the wording. Music connects us all, not just nationally, but again internationally, and we're able to share a message there. And the language of choice, then for most, for many artists, even Indonesian artists, right, is English, right, in order to reach others, not just nationally but internationally as well, and to deeply understand the meaning of a lyric, right? The meaning, the message, because many songs they share a message. There's a deeper meaning associated with the song, and to really deeply understand this message, we have to actually understand the language and the what is actually implied behind the lyric, right? What is the meaning of the message? For this, we actually have to deeply study the English language to really get these deeper meanings, because they are not just by words. This is behind those words. Sorry, can we go back, please? One. Can we go back one slide? I'm not sure. Perhaps it was a misclick. Yeah. So, and then I put a picture there on the lower right. You see Indonesian, right? A traditional dance, which is quite nice and interesting. So, the way tries to tell us something or share something, some aspect of the culture from wherever this music originates. So, especially with Indonesian dances, to me, my opinion is that dances and music and the lyrics associated to it are also there uh, to give further a message or an idea or a tradition to the next generation, right? It's like a record, right, of someone's culture or someone's message. So many of these songs, many of the traditional songs, especially abroad, internationally, once again, written in English. How many countries did I write down? 67 countries. So that is how you connect with other cultures, with other traditions abroad through music in a way, and through understanding the lyrics and the message behind those songs, right? So this is also quite good, quite useful to have that skill, English. Next slide, please. Yeah. Yes, next slide.
Slide berikutnya.
Yeah. Mhm. Yes. Okay.
Panitia boleh pindah slide ya.
Yeah. It's possible. Okay. Not sure.
Sorry, we got
Yeah.
unstable
Okay.
connected.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. That I believe is the. Let me check. Last slide. So media in general, media, right, could perhaps be subdivided into social media, film, movie industry, the news, and yeah, how do we connect with media? Nowadays, it has changed quite much. In the past, it used to be just a TV and a newspaper, right, and some magazines. So these days, much of it is done using the phone, using the laptop, using the internet, right? And how do we connect? Usually these days, many of you relate to social media, use social media to access music, as just talked about music, films, any content created, custom content created by the user. So we connect with others, right? Not just nationally in Indonesia, but also internationally. If you have social media like Facebook or Instagram, likely you'll see content or people that comment on content, right? That speak English, that use English, the English language. And that is quite helpful and useful to then also speak the language, right? So the same way, if you want to grow your own followers, a follower base, right? This is done usually or better internationally again if you get international client base. So if you write in English, it's likely that you get followers from abroad, people that understand your content and broaden your reach. So film industry, movie industry as well. If you go to the cinema, likely, let's say cinema 21, right, is here, or XX1, right? Many of the movies there from Hollywood, right? From Hollywood, biggest movie industry. And then spoken in English. In Indonesia, they use subtitles, right? When you go and watch the movie, they use subtitles. In other countries, they actually dub it. They actually translate it into their language, and then it's spoken in their language. Here, they use subtitles. So either way, you're exposed to English there as well. And many of the translations, it's very hard sometimes to translate English into your own native language, because the vocabulary is either limited, right? Or there just is no real one-on-one translation for certain words, right? And how do we understand these ideas? What did they mean? What did they meant to say? So once again, to really deeply understand and get the meaning of a message, you have to actually speak that language, have mastered it to a degree to really understand what is being said or meant by something. So if most of it through media is done in English, once again, it works much better for you if you actually do speak English. The news themselves, I mentioned that briefly before, also quite important, not just national news, Indonesian news, but international news, like Channel News Asia, right? I think they call it BBC. There are many other news outlets that are, especially if you go to the hotel and switch through the channels, right? Likely that you all read or get many outlets that are from abroad, speaking English again, right? So yes, YouTube, right? Any kind of social media, Netflix even, most of it done in English, right? So it works very well for you. It's also a good tool, yes, to practice, to enhance your speaking skills. Yeah. If you have any questions, I'd be happy then to answer and respond to those in the next session. But yeah, for now that's it from me. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. David, for the insightful session. Okay, well, please, before I move on, please allow me to summarize that for in Bahasa Indonesia for our Indonesian audience. Jadi tadi Mr. David sudah menekankan ya pentingnya English, karena English ini still plays a big role, karena ini it's still masih hitungnya powerful language lah ya, karena banyak banget bidang dan juga industri yang memang pakai bahasa Inggris gitu. Oke, tadi udah disebutin bahkan pas kita tahap studinya nih, pas tahap belajarnya aja, banyak sumber yang emang credible dan juga sumber yang lebih kaya informasinya itu dalam bahasa Inggris. Terus juga dalam hal karir kamu dan juga dalam bidang bisnis, medicine, dan juga sains dan juga riset, bidang teknologi, politik and public relation, dan bahkan untuk industri hiburan ya, kita mau memanfaatkan untuk terhibur aja nih, entertainment-nya itu bisa dalam bahasa Inggris, yaitu pada saat kita traveling atau juga dengerin musik maupun media-media itu berbahasa Inggris. So ya, English itu role-nya banyak sekali di bidang-bidangnya seperti yang udah dijelasin sama Mr. David secara detail, dan juga itu bisa bantu banget kita sebagai anak muda nih untuk mencapai achievement. Oke, nah perannya penting banget nih. Thank you so much, Mr. David, for explaining that
Thank
in
you too.
detail. Okay. And now we can move on to our next session. Nah, ini ketiga-tiganya nih udah menyampaikan materinya ya. Tiga speaker kita yang luar biasa, ada Kak Firman tadi di awal, terus Kak Zalfa, and the last one is Mr. David. And now let's move on to our next session. It will be a talk show session. And it will be a more relaxed and casual chat aja sih between the three of us. Oke, jadi Kak Zalfa, Kak Firman, dan juga Mr. David, kita akan mulai ya. Nah, untuk teman-teman yang mau kasih pertanyaan atau kasih komen, bahkan boleh ya mulai ditaruh di chat box nih. Karena setelah talk show, kita bakalan langsung masuk ke sesi Q&A. Alright? Oke, langsung aja kita sapa-sapa lagi nih Mr. David, Kak Zalfa, sama Kak Firman ya, udah di sini ya? Oke.
Halo.
Oke.
Ya.
Halo. Oke deh, kalau gitu kita langsung bentar, ini ada yang audionya bocor nih. Ini dari siapa nih? Oke, kita langsung mulai aja. I have some questions for the three of you. I'll say it in bahasa Inggris first. Oke, boleh di-mute dulu, panitia? Oke, thank you. Oke, ini ada yang oke, boleh di-mute dulu ya, panitia, untuk yang suaranya bocor-bocor ini. Oke, I'll say that in English, and then I'll say it in bahasa Indonesia first for the question. Okay, and then we can proceed to each speaker. Okay, for the first question, okay, remember for the speakers it's gonna be like a casual chat, jadi santai aja ya. Okay, for the first question is, what was the first moment that you think that you realized the importance of mastering language in the journey of your career and also your study journey? So what was the first moment? As three of you guys learn a new language, right? Mr. David learned other language, and as well as Kak Firman, also Kak Zalfa, three of you learn a new language. Please enlighten us as the audiences. Kapan sih harus belajar momen menyadari pentingnya menguasai bahasa dalam perjalanan karir dan pengalaman kalian? Gitu. We can start from Kak Firman mungkin ya. Silakan Kak Firman.
Okay, thank you. So jadi okay, so sorry, my mind just translated to Indonesian. Actually, your question was the important moment, right? Back then, I remember when I was in high school, there was the start point that I think that learning languages is always important, because when I was in high school, there was a moment when my French teacher give us the student the first time about the French, and I said to my friend, like, oh, this language is really weird by written and by speaking. It's kind of late, because I realized when I was in high school, but there is no late limitation of learning languages. So yeah, that was the starting point that I remember, that I realized that learning languages is important.
Yep.
Thank you.
Interesting, Kak Firman. Okay, anyway, I'd like to also say the importance of the first question is that kita tuh harus tahu why-nya dulu, supaya proses belajarnya tuh kuat dan juga foundation-nya kokoh. Itu harus didasari oleh why yang kuat. Dan Kak Firman udah kasih tahu tadi why-nya, the starting point, why you realize it is important to learn other language, itu pas SMA. Okay, let's move on to the second speaker, Kak Zalfa. When was your turning point in realizing the importance of language?
Okay, my turning point is actually very, very simple. I was 7 years old. My mom has this obsession with movie that's called The Notebook. You know, Ryan Gosling played in there, Rachel McAdams played in there. So my dad bought this CD for her, and when she played the movie, there's no subtitles. Then my mom said, oh no, I cannot watch this movie because there's no subtitles. That is exactly the point when it struck me, oh my God, I need to understand this language to understand the movie. So that's when I decided to, okay, you know what, Mom, because you don't understand English, I'll learn English. So we can watch this movie, The Notebook, without the subtitles, because my dad is like, yeah, he never gave it any subtitles. That's actually where I realized the importance of English.
All right, all right. Well, that's even more interesting. Ternyata finding the why ini doesn't always have to be something serious. Cuman untuk entertainment pun juga bisa jadi why kita. Let's hear from Mr. David. So, what
Yeah.
was your moment?
Moment, yeah. As was a while ago. I mean, a long time ago, actually. When I used, was back then there was Yahoo Messenger popular. It was a long time ago, and I started to connect with people from Asia because I'm quite interested in the culture, especially China. And the way to speak with them, of course, was in English. And I've only had very limited understanding of the language at that point. So I only could write very simply with them using very simple vocabularies. And I believe I've made many mistakes, grammatically especially. And then I realized, oops, if I want to actually share more of how I feel, how I think, my experiences, I need more book, right? And yeah, that moment I realized, oops, I actually need to learn the language. And that later on became more important when I moved to Indonesia. Here, especially, I did not speak Indonesian. Now only sedikit. So in order to communicate with others, I needed English, right? And many people approached me and started speaking, oh, Mr. in English, right? So yeah, I had to expand there and actually sit down the whole thing. Yeah. Mhm.
Alright, alright. Jadi pas berkoneksi ya, Mr. David pas berkoneksi sama orang-orang lain, itu makanya termotivasi pakai bahasa Inggris nih, so that he could connect with others. Oke, tadi tiga speaker kita juga udah menyampaikan, dan David tadi juga nyampein poin penting nih. Kalau misalkan pas awal nyoba, even Mr. David itself made friend there, and that's okay. Pas pertama kali belajar itu very normal untuk make mistake. Jadi jangan langsung awal-awal langsung minder, langsung apa, that's normal. Even Einstein juga belajarnya dari tambah-tambahan ya. Okay, anyway, for the second question, kayaknya aku komennya di akhir aja ya. Silakan speakernya nanti sampaikan jawabannya dulu masing-masing. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Okay, so we keep saying that language is important. It can take you anywhere, and to this opportunity and that opportunity. But do you think that you can actually be successful if you do not master other language? Okay, do you think it's possible? Mungkin nggak sih kamu sukses tanpa belajar bahasa lain gitu? Dari Kak Firman dulu deh.
Interesting questions. Thank you. So Kak Oryza, I think wow, okay. it takes me a bit because I know it's the answer would be subjective. But then when you ask will be, so yeah, it could be, but in the very small sector. So when you only speak your local language, as David already said before in his presentation, that English is always involved in any sectors, right? So when you speak only your native language, you can be, but I don't know, maybe the opportunity is just limited. That is my opinion. So when you speak more than one language, or maybe speak foreign language, so it makes you open your opportunities. Yeah.
Agreed. Okay. Bener banget tadi, emang it's very and I really want to know your perspective on it. Now let's hear it from Kak Zalfa. What do you think, Kak Zalfa, in your point of view?
I think, okay, first I echo everything Kak Firman said. He made a really good point also. But in my opinion, no. Because if you're talking in the perspective of the world that we are living in today, borders are non-existent. So when you wanted to make impact in Indonesia, it is likely that you're making impact in other parts in the region. So I'm a law student, right? I am studying Asian law, ASEAN law, and I'm also studying about European Union law. And I realize the effect of a like changes that was made in a domestic level, its effect can, it reaches us other parts of the region, it reaches us other parts of the nation. So that's why it's very, very important to understand other language, to broaden your way of seeing things, of opening doors to new opportunities. So I feel, learning other language became a primary needs now. It's not a subsidiary needs, like you need to learn English, like not English, other language, like you need to make that sacrifice in the world that we're living now. So yeah, I hope that's a good answer.
Yes, it was. Okay. Okay, thank you, Kak Zalfa. Now let's hear from Mr. David. As you already live in other country that speak language too, do you think we can be successful without mastering other language?
Yes, and become successful without without speaking another language nationally. But the problem, like I said before, many of the companies are actually international companies, the bigger companies, right? So in order to be competitive, right, and stand out from the rest, this is so this thing, right? You're competing with other applicants, with others that try to get the job. And these companies themselves, they compete with many other companies, especially also bigger companies, right? The bigger fish eating the smaller one. So the bigger ones likely so many of those require you to also stand out and require you to fit in to this international into this international world. So it works good for you. It's not essential. Of course, you can become successful just by doing Indonesian business, right? Just nationally, on a national level. But it increases your chances. I agree with that. You become more competitive, right? You stand out from others that do not speak the language, and it's quite useful, very, very useful. Anything, especially software, much is done now using softwares. Much of it is in English, written in English, communicated in English. So also email writing, right? Much of it done in English. So yeah, it works well for you, of course.
Agree. Oke, jadi tadi udah dapat ya, udah tahu berarti ya audiensnya nih. Kalau penting banget untuk bisa bahasa Inggris, apalagi di modern era sekarang ini, yang mana emang udah fluid banget sih. Perbedaannya dari antar negara tuh udah kayak batasnya tuh bordernya kayak udah nggak ada lah. Persaingannya udah global banget. Jadi penting buat kamu menguasai bahasa lain ya. Udah disampaikan, ditekanin juga sama the speaker. Maybe you can succeed without learning other language, but it will be in a small sector, just like Firman said ya. Mungkin lingkupnya lebih kecil lagi gitu. Oke, tapi tenang aja buat peserta yang aku masih belum bisa bahasa asing, gimana nih? It's okay, kayak yang si Du bilang, practice makes perfect. Oke, jadi yang penting latihan terus aja. Dan di awalnya itu memang sangat wajar nih kalau misalkan belum bisa membuat kesalahan di sini dan di sana. That's really okay as long as you have the willingness to learn. Gitu. Oke, ini berhubungan banget nih sama pertanyaan aku yang ketiga. So the next question would be, what was your struggle when first learning other language? Pasti ada dong. Tadi kita udah dengar ya, audience ya. Kalau udah casis banget ngomongin bahasa asing. Cuman pas awal belajar nih, masalahnya apa sih gitu? What was your struggle when first learning other language and how did you cope with it? Oke, mungkin bisa diceritain ya supaya kita bisa empathize juga with your journey of learning language dan bisa kita contoh nih. Boleh dari Kak Firman dulu?
Baik, terima kasih. Nice questions, Kak Oryza. So, my journey of learning languages, when I was kid, if I may tell you, when I was kid, I have two grandmothers. So, of course, you all also have, and my grandmother from my dad taught me about Japanese words when I was 6 or 5. So she only talked to me, but I never had the proper lesson. So my ears get familiar. And then when I was elementary, so I started learning the English until middle school. And then in high school, started learning French, which is this was it was the turning point that I was getting stressed because of the language, because it's really difficult. And then I just realized almost all European languages have genders, and then the grammar as well. And how did I cope the challenges is, first I talk to myself like I have to be diligent, so because persistence, because if you and discipline, because if you don't have this kind of things, you cannot cope all the challenges. Because at the moment also, in 2020 I start learning German. This is also way of challenging, because completely different from French and English, and Indonesian. So persistent, diligent, and also discipline, and one more, motivated. Yeah, that's the way I cope all the challenges. Thank you.
Nice ones. Okay, let's hear it first from Kak Zalfa. Please tell us your journey.
Okay, my challenges, yeah. Okay, when you're learning new language, I think everyone in this forum can relate to my experience. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Like the language that you're learning, it doesn't make sense. Like for instance, when I first learned English, there's this word that said break a leg. It means that, like good luck, you got this, it's break a leg. It doesn't make sense. Like if you translate the word to Indonesian, it doesn't make sense. And when I go to Italy, people say to me, aqua in boca. It literally means water in your mouth. It means shut up. The secret stays with you until you die. It doesn't make sense. So a friend told me aqua in boca, and I was like, what? You want me to drink? Or you want me what? I don't understand. So that's the challenges that I face. It just doesn't make sense. New language doesn't make sense. However, the way to overcome those, kebingungan itu, I agree with Kak Firman. Like you need to place yourself, you need to make this environment for yourself where that language that you're learning is everything that you hear every single day. Because sometimes your brain can learn something passively. So if you forces your brain to learn a language by reading a book, sometimes your brain goes, oh no, I don't want to learn this language again. It doesn't make sense. But when you're, for example, listening to music or watching movies that you like in that foreign language, your brain just absorbs each and every information like sponge. So yeah, environment is very, very important in your journey to learn language. I think that's for me.
Okay, thank you, Kak Zalfa. Anyway, for Mr. David, yes. Oh, okay,
So-
okay. But it's good now.
Yeah. Just started raining. Yeah. For me, it's quite interesting because that's at least the way I see it. Even officially, it's said differently. But to me, I say the English language came most part from the German language. So when I look at English, I see a simplified version of the German language. So even you can check that on Wikipedia, how, let's say, the old Germanic language has changed over the years. It became then later on mixed with other dialects together, became the English language. English as a language, to me, it makes more, well, to me, it was logical. I was able to follow it. It made sense to me. So the difficulties weren't there. Also, when I'm trying to understand the grammar, when you start out with, let's say, Latin-based language, Latin-based languages tend to be a bit more complex, right? So, and quite complex and quite detailed. So English language seems to be a bit more simplified, a bit more general in that regard. So the problems came for me when, and that's the toughest thing, pronunciation. The pronunciation originally done by the natives in the UK, in the US, and Australia. So especially for me, now that I'm in Indonesia, that's far away from there. So I have to using media to slowly get used to the correct pronunciation. But and even there are many that say native speakers that say yes, the pronunciation is very, very important. But in my opinion, as English is becoming, let's say, a global language, say like that, it is not as let's say impactful anymore to pronounce words specifically the UK style, specifically the US American style or Australian style, because no, now you have Singapore, now you have China, you have Africa, they also speak English their own way. Any Indonesians that speak English, so their own way, right? So what is understood? But still, this challenge still exists. The idea that it's very hard when you're living outside a native English-speaking country, right, to get used to the correct pronunciation, right? If you're not constantly exposed to it, this will disappear as soon as you actually live abroad, right? When you live in the UK, I'm not sure, Miss Zalfa, your experience pronunciation-wise before your pronunciation, and then after you've stayed there for some time, pronunciation has changed and adapted to that. Can I ask you actually how has your pronunciation changed? Have you mastered like different ways of pronouncing like the UK style and the American style? How is your experience that pronunciation?
Oh, well, I was first exposed to UK style pronunciation because of Harry Potter. That movie is like a blast. And then now I'm exposed to US style because Marvel,
and
the
quite
movie
different,
from Marvel,
right?
yeah, it's quite different. But I agree with you. Like it doesn't matter, you know.
What do you settle for then? How do you what do you choose? Do you pick one side or depends on the people that you meet?
Like in the middle. Sometimes there are words that's easier to pronounce in UK style, but sometimes there are words that's easier to pronounce in US style.
Yeah.
So it's like a mix of both.
Yeah, true. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Alright. Oke, jadi bisa banget ya belajar dari Harry Potter. Itu bisa banget kita belajar dari film-film nih. Oke, jadi ternyata udah disampaikan juga ya sama speakernya kalau menghadapi tantangan di awal tuh wajar banget. Mereka bahkan ngerasa stres. Ada beberapa yang ngerasa ini nggak masuk akal nih, ini apa maksudnya? Dan bahkan bingung juga ini maksud pronunciation-nya atau pengucapannya apa sih? Aduh, jadi tuh bingung-bingung di awal sangat wajar. Oke, but what matters is need to keep going. Mengutip dari Kak Zalfa tadi, kadang kita harus memaksa diri kita nih, karena kadang itu bisa karena terbiasa gitu. Jadi ya ditingkatin lagi, tetap semangat buat semuanya yang sedang menghadapi kesulitan gitu buat belajar bahasa lain. Oke, mungkin pertanyaan terakhir nih untuk talk show kali ini nggak keluar dari mastering language karena dari tadi kita udah tahu pentingnya belajar bahasa. Mungkin the next one would be what skills would you suggest to the youth in order to maximize all the opportunities. Karena kalau language alone kita tadi udah bahas dalam banget pentingnya apa, tapi skill lain apa yang diperlukan buat getting all the opportunities, mendapatkan kesempatan yang kalian udah dapetin juga. Oke, mungkin boleh sharing dari Kak Firman ya.
Okay, thank you Kak Oryza. So also again nice questions. Kalau dari saya, so from me, because I'm a communication student, so I am a public relations. So the other skill that instead of language is communication skill. So it's not exactly like people say like, oh, it's easy to communicate with people. Exactly, but then if you move it to the professional field, or politic field or business field, so you need to train yourself because communication is also a foundation skill that you need to have. And the second one, there is also a term, but I think a bit forget about the term, but then wait a moment. So yeah, I forgot. So maybe I can pass it. So so communications, and also to be more flexible, because for example, I work as a public relation, but I also need to know about the graphic designs. So the other skill is flexibility, because you cannot say like, oh, you are a teacher, but I cannot do design like graphic design. No, you should know the basic. That's why I said like flexibility to get blend to to other skills. It's just only flexibility. That's only the basics. That's it from me. Thank you.
Interesting. Okay, let's hear from Kak Zalfa first ya. Silakan,
Okay,
Kak
so
Zalfa.
Kak Firman has already said communication. I think the skill that youth needs to have now is the ability to see things in several perspectives. You need to have the ability to be sympathetic to certain things, because like 1,000 years ago, this world is led by people with the strongest body. 100 years ago, by people with the strongest mind. In the future, they're looking for people with the strongest heart, because they wanted leaders that are able to facilitate all kinds of the communities in the world. And so by seeing things through different perspectives, you'll be able to navigate yourself in the middle of it, protecting the weak, respecting the high. And it's just a very, very a good skill that I'm also trying to apply in my life now as I go through my study. So please keep that in mind, I think. See things from different perspectives.
Okay. Nice. Okay, let's hear it from Mr. David.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with what has been said so far, especially flexibility is good. The idea that, like in Indonesia, it's different. Asian culture, work culture is different. To say it in simple words, here, someone is, the job that is done here is done by 5 people, and abroad it's done by 1 person. So how can be that one person is doing all this work? Because they are flexible, they're able to perform under pressure during multitasking, right? And multiple different tasks, right? So the idea of this is that you need a certain amount of curiosity, interest in not only one specific field, and this is also goes in line with what Ms. Zalfa said. Perspective, right? You need to have be able to look at something from different perspectives. That only comes from, I guess, from experience, right? You need to actually have some form of experience from another side, another field, right? And this flexibility and curiosity also leads you to have a general understanding of how things work, different things work. You don't need to be a specialist in any of these different fields, but just in general understand how does it work, and by that and through that, you come towards what I believe is very important skill is this, let's say, people skill, right? Public relation people skills, to understand, especially during an interview or when you work for a company, what do they want from me, and what do they want from me actually, right? What am I supposed to do? And that is not just by the official statement and description, but it's also when you put yourself into their position to understand what they actually need, what they actually try to achieve, right? Able to understand that and know that, I'm able to fit in better, right? So to get this kind of skill, people skills, knowing how to fit in, especially if you go abroad, let's say like that, or international company, fit into this different work atmosphere, into a group, into a team. How do you fit in? And it comes also from critical thinking. That is very important, right? Critical thinking. You need to not just have a stuck mind, only one way thinking. No, you have to be able to critically look at something, right? Challenging a narrow mindset, especially when you talk about like Ms. Zalfa, right, interesting that you studied law, right? In order to how to best mention this, yeah. As we advance, become more modern, we have to, let's say, open our eyes, right? And try to look at ways of how to make things more efficient, how to advance. And just like Elon Musk, for example, right? Technology, how do you advance? We have to get away from what used to be there of how it was and try to find another way, find a more efficient way. look at it from a different perspective. That comes through critically looking at it, from challenging something, through curiosity, right? And people, especially now in businesses, they love this stuff. They love innovation, something new, something that stands out, something that challenges the market. Yes. Okay. So these kind of skills I believe are important. People skills, critical thinking. Okay.
Okay, thank you
Yeah.
so much. I personally think your answers were incredible and it was beautiful. Please allow me to emphasize some of the points in bahasa Indonesia. Jadi skill-skill yang harus kita tekanin banget nih untuk getting those achievement yang udah disampaikan sama para speakers adalah communication, communicate effectively. Komunikasi yang efektif tuh penting banget. Kemudian berpikirnya juga harus secara kritis nih, have the growth mindset so that kamu tuh bisa berubah walaupun sekarang masih belum bisa, tapi bisa kok untuk ditingkatkan. That's called growth mindset, and we need to have also the flexibility to being adaptive. Remember the evolusi. Teori evolusi yang paling bertahan tuh bukan yang paling kuat atau yang paling besar. Kalau misalkan kayak gitu, dinosaurus sekarang masih ada, tapi sekarang kan udah nggak ada ya. So yang paling akan bertahan paling akhirnya adalah yang bisa adaptif terhadap lingkungannya. Oke, terus kemudian also disampaikan poin penting yaitu being human, being sympathetic and also have the people skill so that you can fit in and also connect with other humans. Walaupun ada banyak teknologi, jangan lupa hubungannya masih antar manusia nih. Jadi skill-skill untuk bersimpati itu tetap harus kita punya ya. Dan ini nih terakhir, harus punya skill curiosity atau rasa penasaran yang tinggi. Karena dengan rasa perasaan kayak gini, itu menjadi api nih buat kita untuk belajar terus-menerus dan mencari tahu ilmu-ilmu baru. Okay, thank you so much for the speakers. I personally learned a lot from three of you guys, so thank you. And I guess this is time for the participants to get the golden chance to directly ask to the speakers about anything you have on your mind. Boleh mulai ditaruh di chat box atau kalau mau tanya langsung boleh raise hand aja. Oke, udah banyak ya ternyata ya, luar biasa nih. Oke, kita boleh langsung masuk aja ke pertanyaan pertama ya. Oke, ini Jennifer Jocelyn udah mau tanya, do you want to say directly? You can unmute yourself if you want to ask it directly to the speaker. Oke, Kak Jennifer bisa open mic kah? Kalau nggak bisa, saya bisa bacakan sih sebenarnya. Oke, 3, 2, 1, udah. Aku bacain aja ya Kak ya. Oke, untuk pertanyaan pertama dari Kak Jennifer from Petra Christian University. I have a question for everyone. Do you have any tips for total beginners on where to begin when learning foreign language? Harus mulai dari mana? And how do you compartmentalize when speaking each language to not mix up their syntaxes or grammars if you speak more than one language? Thank you. Very technical. Pertanyaan keduanya. Silakan. Mungkin dari siapa dulu yang mau jawab?
Kak Firman.
Oke, urut ya. Oh iya, oke. Silakan deh Kak Firman.
A moment. So about the syntaxes, grammar, I think Mr. David knows better because I'm not from linguistic. So but I learned. So wait a moment. I read again. Reread the question. Do you know any tips for people? Do you have any tips for total beginners on where to begin when learning foreign languages? I believe that I learned from my experience learning languages. From the first is get used to with your ears, because I give you a example. A baby can speak the language, and suddenly because of he or she studies or learn the language, because the baby try to adapt when the mother or the surrounding speak with the language, with the vocabulary. So the first thing is get used to with the language, get your ears used to with the language, because because if you notice because of the language of the words, so you can continue by learning the grammars, or maybe enriching your vocabulary. Because first of all, in my experiences, I always enrich my vocabulary first, then because after that I can continue learning the grammar. Because when you learn the grammar but you don't have vocabularies, you cannot speak, because the vocabulary is also fundamental. This is from my part, so maybe the others can also add or correct me.
Oke, oke. Thank you, Kak Firman. Gimana nih dari yang lain? Kalau mulai dari nol, belajarnya nih dari mana ya? Terus, how do you compare, gimana cara memilah-milah supaya grammarnya tuh kalau antar bahasa nggak kecampur-campur tuh gimana sih? As three of you speak more than one language, right? Gimana biar grammarnya nggak kecampur-campur? Milah-milahnya gimana sih?
Okay, so I have to add also that it's not mixing the grammar. Actually, it's my problem, still my problem, because when for example, now I speak in English, when someone suddenly speaks to me in French, I need a second to switch my brain. And so how, maybe the best the best tip I can give: do not learn the same root of the language if you are easily to be confused. For example, if you speak French and you are not mastering yet, do not learn Spanish or Italian, because in the same route. But if you are ready to face the challenge, and then you just need to focus on because you just need focus and conscious when speaking the language. Like because whenever you speak in English, you should conscious that now you speak in English. Then maybe a second later you can speak in French or in German with someone. Just need to be more mindful and conscious. It's a basic knowledge that I have.
Thank you so much, Kak Firman. Okay, now let's hear it from Kak Zalfa. Any tips from zero, Kak Zalfa? Mulainya dari mana nih?
From zero. Okay, Kak Firman has told you so many tips, right? Technical tips that you can apply. For me, when I was in Italy, I realized that I cannot, survive with English alone. I need to speak with Italian, because Italian grandmothers like to speak with me, and I understand nothing about what they said. So what I do is that each day I give myself a target. I need to memorize 10 Italian words of all things that I use every day. For example, books, computers, the road, or how to say thank you, or how to say, excuse me, I'm sorry, I don't speak Italian, non parlo italiano, stuff like that. So maybe you can use targets. People love targets. Your brain loves targets. Your brain gets off from the satisfaction of achieving your targets. So give small targets to your brain, memorize several vocabularies, and then apply it to real life. That'd be nice. I think you can start from that.
Yes. What about Mr. David? Where to start, Mr. David?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Mr. Firman. What he said was very good. On point, I believe. The idea that each culture, each language, therefore, then has its own. I mean, the people, they have like a way of thinking, and based on this way of thought, they structure the language. The language comes with how we think, how our mind works, right? So if you really focus on one language, it's kind of against you if you learn too many languages at once, right? So if you focus on one language, it's best to stick with that language till you reach the way of how to think when you make this sentence, how when you build the structure, the grammar, right? There's always a certain pattern to that in that language, right? There's a pattern, and that pattern becomes familiar to you then at some point. So when you reach this moment that you feel comfortable with that language, comfortable to that way, to structure pattern, then you may look for another language, right? Expand. I'm curious myself how other students that speak so many languages, whether they have actually learned it all at once in the mix, or whether they started step by step, right? Reach it to a certain level, intermediate level, say that's enough, and then move on. So if you talk about separating these different languages, then yes, start with one, master it to a certain level, intermediate, that you feel comfortable with it. The mindset is there. I understand this. I know how the feeling for this language I got, and then move on to the next language, right? Yeah.
Oke, thank you so much for the speakers. Jadi bisa banget ya mulai dari nol, kayak ngisi bensin nggak tuh? Dari nol bisa banget dengan cara memperbanyak vocabulary, terus set target biar pembelajarannya lebih efektif juga, harus ada targetnya guys. Dan jangan lupa practice, oke, mulai, because knowing and doing are two different things. Yang penting dilakuin dulu ya. Oke, terus juga for the second question, normal banget ya kalau misalkan masih mixing di awal-awal, kamu butuh waktu buat mempelajarin, buat switch grammarnya, it's okay. Cuma tadi udah dikasih tipsnya juga ya, belajarnya bisa satu persatu biar nggak mix up gitu. Oke, lanjut kali ya for the next question from Gozali, from UIN Wali Songo Semarang. Dia mau tanya, ini beda-beda nih, ke Kak Firman dulu ya, kita urut aja. Ke Kak Firman, apa dampak positif dan kontribusi nyata Polyglot Indonesia baik region Surabaya kepada masyarakat sekitar? Hambatannya apa aja sih yang ditemuin dan solusinya apa? Oke, dari Kak Firman dulu kali ya.
Okay, thank you. Should I answer in English or Indonesian?
Boleh bahasa Indonesia kali ya, karena pertanyaannya bahasa Indonesia.
Oke, jadi untuk dampak positif atau kontribusi nyata dari Polyglot Indonesia, Chapter of Surabaya, kami sebelum pandemi dari tahun 2013 kami sudah ada di Surabaya dan kami sudah melakukan aktivitas gathering, kami menyebutnya meet up. Di meet up itu kami mengundang semua orang yang memang suka dan butuh tempat untuk berbahasa, untuk praktek bahasa. Jadi kami melakukan meet up, itu sekali meet up, 1 bulan itu 2 kali, setiap akhir pekan. Jadi setiap meet up itu ada banyak bahasa. Di sebelum pandemik ada bahasa Prancis, Jerman, Arab, Turki, Rusia, Mandarin, Jepang, Korea. Jadi kami memang mengundang semuanya, tidak ada batasan usia. Paling berumur member kami itu umur 80 dan paling muda itu SMP. Di sana kami praktek, jadi kami memotivasi setiap warga di Surabaya untuk praktek berbahasa asing. Jadi mau mereka belum memiliki biaya untuk kursus atau mereka sudah kursus tapi nggak pede untuk bicara. Jadi di kami kita latihan untuk ngomong, jadi bukan mengajar ya. Terus kami juga bergabung dengan rumah bahasa yang didirikan oleh Wali Kota IISMA di tahun 2014 atau 2015 saya lupa. Kami bergabung sejak tahun 2015. Kalau nggak salah itu kami mengajar bahasa-bahasa yang disediakan oleh rumah bahasa. Jadi yang diajarkan ada bahasa Inggris, Prancis. Jadi member-member kami mengajar di sana sukarela, jadi tidak dibayar. Itu kontribusi yang kami lakukan untuk warga Surabaya. Begitu. Semoga menjawab ya. Terima kasih.
Oke, thank you Kak Firman. Semoga menjawab ya. Aku langsung move on ke second speaker aja. Untuk Kak Zalfa, cara membangun motivasi dan semangat yang udah hilang nih gara-gara hasilnya belum sesuai yang diharapin, supaya nggak mengganggu kesehatan mental juga ya, karena udah kerja keras, tapi masih belum berhasil juga. Oke, what motivation would you give to this person?
Okay,
it's Gozali.
Maybe I'll answer this in Indonesia. So sorry, Mr. David. Oke, Gozali, aku beneran relate sih sama kamu. Memang susah, dapat banyak banget, kamu udah merasa kayak you pull yourself in, kayak udah kamu tarik gitu, tapi tetap gagal terus. Cuma menurutku sih, number one, yang paling penting itu adalah diri kamu sendiri. Jadi, gak apa-apa berhenti dulu, kayak berhenti bentar, terus kayak kamu lihat lagi gitu. Kayak menurutku yang paling penting itu adalah kamu mereview lagi, kenapa sih aku gagal? Kenapa sih aku ditolak lagi? Kenapa sih kok begini kayak gitu ya? Jadi menurutku itu yang paling penting sih, refleksi diri. Dulu yang apa aku yang lakukan waktu aku tuh pernah gagal. Jadi aku tuh pernah satu saat itu aku tuh apply ke 8 kesempatan dan hebatnya tuh 8 semua ditolak gitu loh. 8 semua ditolak dan 8-8 itu sayangnya nggak ada yang memberikan feedback. Kayak kan aku kan selalu email kan misalnya aku ditolak. Kenapa ya saya ditolak? Boleh nggak diberitahu alasannya biar saya bisa memperbaiki nih aplikasi untuk di masa depan gitu. Kan 8 ini nggak ada yang jawab aku Gozali kayak gitu. Jadi kan nggak kecewa kan. Tapi akhirnya kesempatan itu aku lakukan untuk kayak mereview lagi gitu. Oh oke, ini kesalahanku tuh di sini kayak gitu. Nah nanti setelah aku review, setelah sudah aku resap IISMA, oke, kekuranganku di sini, aku istirahat bentar, terus aku gerak lagi kayak gitu. It's okay, kayak bisa kok pasti, kayak banyak jalan menuju Roma. Jadi gitu, menurutku refleksi, istirahat, bangun lagi, kayak gitu. Semoga bisa membantu.
Okay, you should definitely take your time, but never forget to keep going. Pokoknya terus di belajarnya tetap diterusin. Boleh kok istirahat itu. Okay, for the last one for Mr. David, how do you train your students so that they keep liking English and keep learning it? And because sometimes learning other language, especially English, make them bored. So yeah, how do you motivate them?
So that's one of the reasons why I prefer adult students as opposed to younger ones. So yeah, I mean, there must be a reason why they learn English, right? So there must be a motivation there for them. So whatever the motivation is, of course, if you supply material that kind of goes in line with whatever that motivates them, and then that is good, right? So when they are, it's quite interesting. What I saw works quite well. It's quite interesting. Is when besides teaching the language, the material that you use is something that is, let's say, unrelated to the language itself. It's just they learn something about, let's say, the world, or something that they would later on learn either way. For example, with younger students, I learn about the Earth or the solar system, right? And as they're learning about that, that they become curious about this topic and using the language at the same time. So the focus is not just the language. About learning, it's about what interests me, what I'm curious about, and I'm using the language to learn about them. So this approach I find quite effective, and the students enjoy that. If they learn something about anything in the world, anything, and then it's written in English. Yeah, by the way, you have to use English to explain that. So and then the other thing, of course, is also for the older students, if there's something that you've already mastered, let's say language wise, you already speak Indonesian and you're learning English, then no need to use these words again, no need to cover Indonesian again. Using Indonesian, or we're trying to then kind of surround them really fully with English. That's why many institutions ask you to only speak in the language that you're teaching, right? And only provide materials where it's only the language that you're teaching use. So to fully surround them fully with the language. And yeah, so this is not just about language, this is about the interest, right? How do you get the student to be interested? That depends on the student, whatever they're interested in. And then you use English to explain that, right? Or to cover that topic.
All right, as an English teacher myself, I totally agree with what Mr. David said. Bisa divariasikan ya untuk kegiatannya ke siswa, dan pastikan juga pakai fun activities. Nah, itu untuk yang anak kecil tuh biasanya tertariknya nggak gitu, bisa pakai game, online game sekarang udah banyak banget, bisa kamu search sendiri ya. Thank you so much, Ghazali, for the question. Let's move on to the next question from Fedro Gunawan dari Universitas Tanjung Pura Pontianak. Okay, so he said, is it possible to learn English only in a year? And also, how long do you think we can master English? Like, how many years do you think we can master English so that it can be really fluent? Okay, let's start from Mr. Firman, as usual.
I think Mr. David knows better. So I mean, from my perspective, because the question is interesting. To be honest, I can't say. Yeah, I can't say how long will you be mastered the English, but then it depends on you, really on you, because when you are really motivated and then you know your goals back then, you will know how long will you reach your level. I mean your target level, because from it just depends on you. So if you are really strongly motivated, you will achieve it within a year, I'm sure. Yeah, maybe Ms. Zalfa and Mr. David can also edit more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What about from Kak Zalfa? Do you think it's possible? And how many years can we master it?
Okay, that's the question from Pedro. You can absolutely learn English in 1 year. Pedro, do you watch James Bond, like No Time to Die? There's this one woman in that movie. Her name is Ana de Armas. She's not. She cannot speak English when she first came to the US, but because she wanted to get into a movie casting, she learned English in just 3 weeks. And how did she do that? She forces her brain to accept English languages, like morning, noon, and at night. So you have real life examples. So you can do that in 1 year. Like, go for it, Pedro. I know you can do it.
Oke, semangat. Jadi semangatin tuh sama Kak Zalfa. Oke, from Mr. David. Silakan.
Yeah, my answer maybe a bit different. Yeah, I mean, this is about mastering. This word alone, there's what do we understand is mastered something. If you look at sports or any other disciplines, any other areas, mastering something is never really done. You always keep on learning new things, right? Especially you can say, okay, I've mastered the English language, and then suddenly you have an astronomer talking about astronomy and telling you about whatever advanced science that uses vocabularies you've never heard of and terms being used that are all very new to you, because there's so many fields, right, in this language that it could be covered using language. So this is something that never finishes. It never ends. Learning something. The moment you master it, to me, it doesn't really exist. There's a moment when you're able to use it well in many fields, in many situations, and that is acceptable. That is on a professionally on a high level, good performance, great performance. That's it. Even natives themselves, I'm not sure about the Indonesian language. I'm not sure whether there's a moment that you say, no, I know all the words, I know all the ins and outs, and all the idioms, especially, right? But I know abroad, in the English language especially, there are so many, let's say, idioms and phrases, right, that are used not just now, but in the old times, long ago. These are area specific, right? So yeah, that is a never ending process. Learning, right? Learning itself. So, but the question about the 1 year or something to master the language, I believe, yes, you can reach a good level, good performance, right? Within 1 year or less than a year, right? 3 weeks seems kind of extreme. So, but yes, that really depends on how you surround yourself with the language, right? If really every day, 24/7, you be exposed to English, yes, of course, in a short time, I guess you reach good, get to a good level. So this really is depending on the field you work in, right? Depending on your goals, what let's say vocabulary range that you need, grammatical proficiency, what kind of level do you need for a specific purpose, right? Yeah, that really depends. Okay.
Oke, udah terjawab banget ya. Jadi bisa, 1 tahun tuh bisa banget gitu. Asalkan ya kamu konsisten dan juga ada tahapannya, set target biar nggak stagnan aja gitu kemampuan kamu. 1 tahun bisa banget, Kak. Jadi semangat untuk Kak Pedro ya di sini. Oke, aku mau tambahin sedikit juga. Bahkan nih ada I'm with Mr. David when he said that it's a never ending process because language keeps changing gitu. Bahkan ada kata baru, kosakata tuh masuk terus gitu tiap tahunnya di kamus resminya tiap negara tuh masuk tiap hari gitu. Jadi it keeps changing, so it's a never ending process. Bahkan salah satu bimbel di Jakarta tuh ada yang kayak kursus bahasa gitu, logonya adalah kura-kura. Karena filosofi mereka adalah belajar bahasa Inggris, bahasa baru itu harus pelan-pelan dan memang berprosesnya tuh bertingkat gitu. Nggak bisa langsung cepet-cepetan gitu. Oke, itu aja. Mungkin the last question ya. Last question from Kana, from UINSA. Is it okay for us to learn other language while we are still learning other language as well? Yeah, or should we focus on learning one language at a time, and after that we learn other language next? Gitu. What do you think? From Kak Firman?
Oh, thank you. Next questions. I like this question. So, is it possible to learn one language while you are also um, capable to another language? I think it's possible, but you should know. I mean, when you are a language students, you should also discover about the root, atau in bahasa Indonesia itu rumpun bahasa. The root, language root. Like for example, if you speak English and you want to learn German, for example, Germanic root is English, also part of the Germanic. But if you are learning Latin or Romance, French is the same root. Jadi, so you have to know the root first. So when you actually want to learn a new language, first you should know. From my opinion, I need to get to intermediate level first, then practicing within a year, I think, and afterwards maybe I can also try to discover a new language, but not necessarily learning, but discover first. So because when you are learning two languages in the same time, to be honest, from my experience, it doesn't work. You can only
Mr.
speak
Firman?
the best. Yeah.
Can I ask, what do you mean by discovering language? What do you mean by that?
I mean, just to look the language, but not really literally learning. Like for example, last year I finished my German course, but I want to know about Spanish just to discover only, oh, this is Spanish. Just watch the YouTube on the YouTube. Just greetings and then simple video, but doesn't mean that I want to learn the language. That's what I mean.
But you mean it's similar? You mean it's similar with the language that you were learning, or totally
no,
unrelated?
it's not similar.
Unrelated.
Yeah, unrelated. So that's my point. So I think better you focus on one language first until you really can speak it and in any proficiency, then you can continue. Yeah, that's from my point of view. Thank you.
Okay, thanks Kak Firman. What about the others? Do you have the same point of view from Kak Zalfa?
Well, because I'm not the polyglot in here, I think I'll echo everything Kak Firman said. I think just go with what he said. If he said no based on his personal experience, then no, don't do it. Like learn it one by one. Thank you.
Yes, agree. Pernah juga ada nih pepatah, kamu tuh nggak bisa menangkap dua kelinci di satu waktu. Kamu akan kalau misalkan mau nangkap ya salah satu aja gitu. Karena kalau kamu nyoba nangkap dua kelinci dalam satu waktu, you will end up getting nothing gitu loh. Malah nggak dapat samsak gitu. Oke deh, dari Mr. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I was quite surprised and shocked a little bit when Miss Zalfa said 10 new words a day. Yeah, did you actually were you actually able to memorize 10 words a day? Did your mind work that way? Well,
maybe because of the
in Italy, was it? I believe.
Yeah. Maybe it's because of the environment also, Mr. David. You know, because you're in Italy, so like when we're in classroom, the teacher keeps on repeating the word, like you know, the Italian for presentation or for books, for pen, or like absence or saying please, you know, simple words like that. Yes, maybe environment also helps.
Okay. So then I guess it really depends on the person, right? Depending on how many words you can learn. If you can, deal with two languages at the same time, sure, why not? But as soon as you, if there's a moment you realize that, nope, I cannot keep up with it, or the process is lacking, or somehow, sometimes maybe you lose interest then also because it seems so difficult, just because you divide it into, you know, your time into two languages. So best, of course, to always focus on one thing at a time, right? But depends on every person. Everyone is different, right? Some people can learn many things at once. So depends on you then. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for Kak Firman, Kak Zalfa, dan juga Mr. David. Well, that marks the end of our Q&A session and our whole session. I'd really say thank you so much for everyone. Let me summarize a little bit from the last statement is that yang bisa kita ambil di sini tadi adalah belajar bahasa baru, bahasa lain itu opens up many doors. Banyak banget kesempatan yang bisa kamu dapetin. Dan please kalau misalkan kamu sekarang merasa belum bisa menguasai, do not give up karena our speakers juga udah share ya kalau misalkan mereka awalnya juga mengalami struggle and it is okay as long as you keep progressing gitu. Oke, itu aja deh karena waktunya udah kelebihan juga. I'm really sorry for the comedy. Okay, thank you so much everyone. The last I say, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Fatma Oryza signing out.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the moderator and all of the speakers, dear audiences. Yeah. Please prepare yourself because we will come to the photo session and stay on this room because the evaluation link will be set in the end of this webinar on chat box. Before that, as a form of appreciation for the moderator and speakers, we will give a certificate to them. Operator team, please show the certificate on the screen. The first certificate will be given to Miss Fatma Oryza as the moderator.
Okay. Okay, let me count. 1, 2, 3. Okay, finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Kak Oryza. The second certificate will be given to Mr. Ahmad Firman Santriyo as the first speaker. Yeah, there is some problem in our connection.
Okay, let me count. 1, finish.
Thank you, Kak Firman. The third certificate will be given to Ms. Zalfa Jatmiko as the second speaker.
Okay, let me count. 1, 2, 3. Okay, finish. Thank you.
Makasih.
Thank you, Kak Zalfa. And the last certificate will be given to Mr. David Friedrich as the third speaker.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me count. 1, 2, 3. Okay, finish. Thank you, Mr. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. David.
Thank you.
And for all the participants, please turn on your camera for documentation. Do not miss this session, guys. Let's turn on your camera.
Okay, guys. Let me count. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Okay, once again. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Okay, thank you. Finish.
Okay, thank you. Dear audiences, finally we come to the end of this event. What do you get from this webinar? Surely you get wider insight about innovation and international languages. Okay, I hope this whole discussion may give good impacts for us. Amin, amin, ya rabbal alamin. Before we end this webinar, last I say thank you very much for the nice attention. Good afternoon, see you, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much,
Operator,
everyone.
please share.
Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, Kak
Bye, Kak
Zalfa.
Firman. Bye.